The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. The chamber would like to now give the floor to co-prosecutor to continue his presentation of the documents.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we broke, I was presenting document E3/193, which is the August 1977 Revolutionary Flag, which published a speech that was made by a party organization representative at the West Zone Conference. And I was just about to turn to the section of the speech that contains discussion and instructions for implementation by the zone. And after a fairly lengthy explanation of the history of traders in the West Zone, which I will not read from as we covered it, some of that in the last few days of testimony, I will read an instruction that was conveyed regarding party membership, which you will find at Khmer ERN 000-62955, English ERN 00399-228 through 399229, and French ERN 00611-832. And this part of the presentation to the West Zone Conference states as follows, quote, "First, the party has determined to expand new membership only in good locations that have no trader elements, meaning those locations in the sectors and districts, in the base areas, in the ministries and offices, large and small, and in the various units. Any good locations that have no traders, that have good elements, good cadre, and party member elements must be expanded. This is the first thing. Second, the party has determined that any locations with trader elements must not be expanded." The speech continues on to tell zone cadres that 50% of the zone was, quote, "not good," and that 15 to 20% of those people were traders. The zone cadres were told that soldiers from the former regime and Kampong businessmen controlled cooperatives in their region. And then at Khmer ERN 000-62963, that's 62963 through 62964, English ERN 00399-235, and French ERN 00611-839. The following instruction was given, quote, "Take this zone, for example. In this zone, there are embedded enemies. In these sectors, there are embedded enemy elements. In the districts, there are also embedded enemy elements, and so on. After we seized victory throughout the country, they came to bore holes to seize state power back from us, zone state power, sector state power, district state power. Especially, they seized state power in the cooperatives because we had few corps in those locations. Examine the cooperative comms. What is their class composition? Look at the composition at the spearheads controlling the platoons, the fertilizer spearheads, the seed spearheads, the sowing, seeding, and transplanting spearheads, the water spearheads. Who controls them inside the cooperatives? The poor peasants, the lower middle peasants, the middle peasants, or various other classes. Continuing on to Khmer 0062964 through 62965, English ERN 00399-236, and French 00611-840. The presentation states as follows, quote, prepare the poor peasants and the lower middle peasants to control the cooperatives, to attack and smash the state power of other classes who stole control of our cooperatives, and give it back to the poor peasants and the lower middle peasants down below. Now we have been able to screen and fight in the zone, able to fight in the sectors, able to fight in the districts, but we have not yet been able to fight in the cooperatives. It is imperative to prepare forces to attack and smash the enemy and the no-good elements embedded inside and controlling the cooperatives. Use which forces to attack? This problem is not just in the West Zone. Every zone throughout the country is like this. Therefore, it cannot be ignored. It is imperative to see that the cooperatives are still controlled by the enemy and other classes. End of quote. Towards the end of this presentation, there is a story told by the party center representative and instructions that are given that I will now present. This can be found at Khmer ERN 000-62977 through 62978. English ERN 00399-245 through 399246, and French ERN 00611-850 through 611851. Quote, at the Zone Party Representative Conference during May 1976 at Longvec, when I arrived, I immediately met with the Zone Committee, and Ham was among them as well. Talking informally about this and that, Ham said, private property cattle are fatter than collective property cattle. Petty bourgeois cattle, the cattle of the rich peasants, are fatter than the cattle of poor peasants. In the conference, I went into combat immediately. I had to struggle. This was class struggle. It was a struggle in terms of political stance, ideological stance, and organizational stance. Had I not struggled, that force would have spread more during the conference, and we would have become even more confused. To believe that private property cattle are fatter than collective property cattle is to attack the collective regime, to attack the party's socialist revolution, whether wittingly or unwittingly. But Ham attacked in an organized way. He attacked in the status of an enemy. At that time, we did not yet know that he was an enemy, but we knew that, speaking like, the stance was counter-revolutionary in opposition to the collective regime. So then, this is why we struggled immediately during the conference. After a while, we discovered that Ham was an enemy embedded inside our party. Therefore, the nature that he displayed was an attack on the socialist regime. With just that, we gradually came to see his nature. He attacked beginning with small things like that. In fact, he attacked the collective regime. So then, this is why it is imperative to whip up the poor peasants and the lower middle peasants to understand the reasons. If sometime the door is reopened to private property, what will become of the poor peasant and the lower middle class peasant? Therefore, it is imperative to whip up, 1, to whip up inside our ranks, 2, to whip up among the people. Continuing down one paragraph further, the speech concludes as follows, quote, "Now, what is the process of setting up the cooperatives? Propose that by late 1977, at least 50% or more of the cooperatives throughout the entire zone be set up to be good and clean in accordance with the class line. Therefore, what is to be done from now until the end of the year? It is imperative to arrange for the poor peasants and the lower middle peasants to take charge of state power in every part of each cooperative in more than 50% of the cooperatives throughout the zone, and by mid-1978 at the latest, 100%. End of quote. And immediately below, following this, at the very end of this issue of Revolutionary Flag, is a notice requiring the study and implementation of this presentation throughout the country. And I quote, "Notice, propose that every leadership echelon in the party concentrate on examining, discussing, and studying this presentation consciously in order to take it for implementation in their respective zones and get good results." Your Honors, the S-21 confession of U Pin alias Ham, the Deputy Secretary of Sector 32 of the West Zone who dared to criticize collective property, is document IS 5.71. Also in 1978, the party published an issue of Revolutionary Flag that contained a presentation at a West Zone conference. And that is the next document that I will present, which is E3/745, E3/745. And this is the March 1978 issue of Revolutionary Flag. The first section of this document contains opinions of the CPK Comrade Secretary that were made at the annual West Zone Conference held following the end of 1977. And I would like to start by reading a few excerpts from the part of Pol Pot's speech relating to defense and internal enemies. The page references that I will first read from are at Khmer 0006445 through 64456. English ERN 00504-072, and French ERN 00491-845. And at this page, the CPK Secretary made the following statement to the West Zone cadres. Quote, in May 1976, enemy elements still held much power. The line of the party in every field was not disseminated down to the base areas and was not implemented in the base areas. Why? Because we had not sorted out the organizational issues. However, by 1977, we were able to sort out the organizational issues. After fighting politically and ideologically, we fought organizationally. We purged in terms of organization. After we had fundamentally purged in terms of organization, we were able to implement the politics and ideology of the party among the masses. Thus, the composition this year is much different than it was in 1976, and it is far different than it was in February 1977 too. So then, we see that this fight was very tense, and things have been turned upside down. Why? Because of those who held power in the army and in the party and in a number of ministries and offices who had been revolutionary elements for a long time, some since the era of political struggle for decades, who had so-called labels, renowned trademarks, who had secretly embedded inside the ranks of the state authority to destroy our party and revolution. We discovered all these strings, and we fundamentally eradicated them all and renewed the face of this zone a lot. You could assume that it has been turned upside down. End of quote. At Khmer 0006445 through 57, English 00504-073, and French 00491-846, the Comrade Secretary continued as follows. Quote, 1977 was only 12 months, but this fight seems like it has been going on for decades. In this 1 year of 1977, it seems as if decades have been sorted out. Things have been turned upside down. In just a moment, there has been a huge change. This is what is called profound revolution. Had we accommodated the enemy, the situation would not have turned upside down like this. The enemy would still be with us. They would not just be in the cooperatives, they would be in the district committees, the sector committees, and higher committees. This is a very serious issue because the districts and sectors and so on have the right to govern the cooperatives. Thus, it would be even more serious. The Center has studied and learned from the fighting during 1977. Our party mastered attacking the internal enemies first. End of quote. An example of the action taken by the Center against enemies is provided by the CPK Secretary at Khmer ERN 000644458 through 59, English 00504-073, and French 00491-847 through 4.8. And in this part of the presentation reads as follows, quote, an example. Immediately when the Yuan enemy attacked us in the east, the party issued immediate circulars to have the monitor to monitor every base area to see what internal elements are there, how are they making propaganda to have the Yuan attack us. We gave immediate instructions. We gained immediate mastery and instructed the taking of immediate measures. When the Yuan attacked us, the Yuan agents come to the surface. The CIA agents come to the surface. The CIA and the Yuan are the same. They both attack the Kampuchean Revolution. They just wear Yuan labels or CIA labels. Their theme is the same. Their mission is the same. No good elements and hooligan elements that wreck and come to make propaganda to carry out sabotage have to be fought and sorted out in a timely manner. When we examine this in a timely manner, we immediately see the enemy. At the Khmer 00064460 through 61, English 00504-075, and French ERN 00491-849, the party secretary concluded his discussion of this subject as follows. Quote, regarding all these issues, in order to defend well, there is only purging the party inside the ranks of the army and the inside the ranks of the people well to make them clean. This issue is the key issue. No matter how numerous the troops are, no matter how many weapons they have, if the party is not clean, if the army is not clean, there is no defense. And, Your Honors, I also would draw your attention in this document that the final section of the Comrade Secretary's speech, which starts at Khmer ERN 0006446, English 00504-081, and French 00491-853. This section of the document contains a discussion by the party secretary of the 1978 plan that was being presented to the West Zone. The last document I will discuss that shows the party center going out to the zones to directly communicate party lines and policies is E3/1094. That's E3/1094, which is a monthly report that was sent from the West Zone office, M401, sent to Ankara on the 4th of August, 1978. And I would refer here just to one section of this document, which is Section 4 of the report, which can be found at Khmer ERN 00143-611 through 143612, English ERN 00315-376, and French ERN 00593-532, which contains the following discussion of the process by which plans and policies from the center had been disseminated to the base. Quote, in July 1978, we organized educational sessions to educate cadres and party members from all sectors in the zone. The attendees in general included members of the sectors, district secretaries, committee of cooperative and party members. At the same time, we opened educational sessions to educate the core organization, including youth league members and the base people. The documents used for education were taken from all 7 documents of the party. They were documents which the party used to educate us in June in the first seminar of 1978. We took some parts of the documents to use in general study. The result of the education sessions shows that cadres, party members, and core organization have understood and absorbed well from all documents, especially about the lines on country defense, ongoing socialist revolution, and construction of socialism on all sectors. They also understood well that the main factor here is to build the leadership forces and especially to destroy the hidden enemy burrowing from within. They also understood clearly and absorbed well about the party's plan and method to gather and increase friends and reduce enemy. End of quote. Your Honors, another group of documents that I would like to present today are a group of documents through which the Party Center disseminated party lines, policies, and instruction were written circulars or directives. And I will now present a number of examples of these documents. First, document E3/781, that's E3/781, and this is a circular that was distributed in September 1975, and it is titled Document Number 3, Examination of Control and Implementation of the Policy Line on Restoring the Economy and Preparations to Build the Country in Every Sector. The purpose of this document is reflected in the very first section at the very outset of the document, which reads as follows. Quote, this document concerns economy, finance, culture, and social action. Section 1, control and implementation of the party's policy line to build agriculture. Objective, to examine the control of, the absorption of, and the implementation of the party's agricultural line to push agriculture to expand in a great leap to the maximum according to the instructions of the party. End of quote. A number of subjects are discussed in this party circular, including the party's decision on the use of currency. At Khmer, ERN 000-72389, English 00523-585, and French ERN 00543-760 through 61. The document states as follows. Quote, it is not yet so necessary for us to use money. The reason that it is not yet is because of governing. We do not have mastery. We do not yet have experience in maintaining and protecting it. Another reason, the enemy is carrying out activities to destroy our money, especially the American imperialist who plays an important role. End of quote. This discussion of the use of money continues on the following pages. Khmer 72390, English 523586, and French 543761. Quote, therefore, if we use money, that money will fall into private hands if, when it does, it will lead to the creation of private ownership. And if there is private ownership, there is separation from the collective. Money is a tool they use to get to power and authority. If this money falls into the hands of bad groups of the enemy, they will use it to carry out activities to destroy the ranks of our bad cadres, with them suing to bribe them this way and that way. So after a while, one by one, they fall into gathering up this private ownership and creating that one. Through this, it becomes a right to authority because they have the money. They can bribe and tug on emotions. If it is like this within 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, our clean Kampuchean society will become Vietnam. End of quote. The party's plan to export rice is also discussed in the circular at Khmer ERN 000-72393, English 005235888, and French ERN 00543-763 through 764. And again, I quote, we can produce 3 million tons of rice. We save 1.8 million tons for the people to eat, 400,000 for social action. We still have 800,000 tons. This amount we will take for sale outside and gain some capital. This capital is used to build the country. This capital will be used for national reconstruction and national defense. The problems today are only collection and transport. The bases must designate about the products, about how much must the subdistricts, districts, sectors, zones keep, and how much must they provide to upper echelon. Later, we will eliminate villages. We will not permit them and will organize collectives instead. End of quote. And the circular also discusses the evacuation of Phnom Penh and further movements of the population. I would like to read 2 passages on this subject that can be found at Khmer ERN 000-72396 through 72397, English 00523-590 through 591, and French 00543-765 through 766. And this part of the circular contains the following statements, quote, in the past, we have been short of medicines leading to sickness and pain, malnourishment, malaria, and food shortages. This has impacted the labor force to an important degree. The people with the greatest shortages are those who were evacuated from Phnom Penh and the surrounding areas. Continuing in the next paragraph below, quote, we must divide the people according to production requirements. We will make appropriate preparations to adjust to requirements. Sufficient arrangements must be made do not let it swing back and forth. In the Northwest, we must add an additional force of 500,000 people. Prévihir has requested 50,000 first. In Prévihir, there is the possibility of solving food supplies. Prévihir has 70,000 old people already, so send 20,000 first as we go along. In the north, they need people to be given to Kampantom province. The east also needs forces to be given to sectors which are short of people. So each zone must make appropriate preparations and not let things sway back and forth, allocating how many to upper level and moving how many to other locations. End of quote. The decision to move an additional 500,000 people that was referenced in that circular was the result or followed a standing committee trip to the Northwest Zone that occurred from the 20th to 24th of August 1975 that is recorded in document E3/216. That's E3/216. Let me turn and present that document now before I return to other examples of party circulars. The record of the Standing Committee trip to the Northwest Zone begins with a report on the general situation in the base. The paragraphs discussing the people situation on the first page include the following observations. Quote, "Shelters have been prepared for the people everywhere. The base people are stable. There are not yet shortages of livelihood. The party has continually supplied war booty from the towns. However, remote districts are still in need, and many people are also suffering from diseases. The new people are experiencing shortages of food supplies as well as shortages of medications. Many living west of Levea and along the Stung Mongolbore stream have caught fever." End of quote. The section of this document discussing the enemy situation contains the following statement by the Standing Committee, which you will find at Khmer 0008486, English 00850,973, and French 00343,375. Quote, "There exist within our ranks those who have not yet been purged. They make use of them to lead people to flee. We have been able to arrest them one after the other and are now continuing to search them out." End of quote. The section of this document recording the opinions or decisions of the Standing Committee contain a number of statements regarding the new people who had previously been evacuated to the Northwest Zone, including two excerpts that I will read that can be found at Khmer ERN 0008489, English 00850,975 through 976, and French 00343,377. And at this part of the document, the Standing Committee report states as follows, quote, "The function of cooperatives since the total liberation is to absorb all the new people coming out of all the cities and towns, especially Phnom Penh City and in the northwest, Battambang. Every type of horrible element exists among the hundreds of thousands of new people in Battambang, but the cooperatives have absorbed them completely, supplying them with food and, moreover, deploying their strength to work. The power of the cooperative is very mighty and indomitable. Continuing a few paragraphs down, quote, in the Northwest Zone, it is possible to sort things out temporarily, although some shortages remain. Things are okay with the base people, but be vigilant against no good elements among the new people taking advantage of things, because these contemptibles would not stay with us even if we were to give them sufficiency, 2 cans of rice a day. End of quote. One of the concrete measures decided by the Standing Committee in this document concerned defenses to be implemented on the border. And at Khmer ERN 0008490, English 008509777, and French 0034338, I will read number 2 of the listed concrete measures decided by the Standing Committee. Quote, a mix of old and modern weapons should be used, including especially spikes to place along the border. Make a plan on how many spikes to be used in 1 month. All kinds of spikes must be used, those at the height of a person's foot sole, instep, and shin, and up to the stomach. End of quote. And finally, in relation to this document, at Khmer ERN 00008492, English 008509778, and French 0034339, the Standing Committee determined that additional people were required in the Northwest Zone, stating, and I quote, its human being strength is insufficient. The labor force must be increased. 300,000 or 400,000 more would not be enough. The current strength of 1 million persons can only work 50%. It's imperative to add 400,000 or 500,000 more. End of quote. Returning to examples of circulars or directives that were issued by the Party Center, I would now like to present document E3/1173. That's E3/1173, which is circular number 02-76, titled Instructions from 870, that was issued by Committee 870 on the 27th of February 1976. The subject of this circular is, quote, the 25 February 1976 bombing of Siem Reap City by the American imperialists. In this circular, the Standing Committee asserts that the explosion in Siem Reap was the result of U.S. bombing. They then continue to make the following statement that relates to the purpose of the evacuation of Phnom Penh in the bottom paragraph of the first page. And I quote as follows, quote, when our Second National Congress announced the stance of great national solidarity and condemned just the 7 traitors, The American imperialists hoped that this was an opportunity for them to carry out their plans to attack us after their defeat, since they continued to maintain their forces inside Phnom Penh and the provincial cities. But after we were victorious, we removed the people from Phnom Penh and the cities, and the American imperialist plan to attack us after their defeat was broken up and scattered. End of quote. On the last page of this circular, the Standing Committee instructed on measures that were to be implemented. And I quote, "The Standing Committee proposes using this event to re-educate the party internally, the core organizations, the army, and the masses, aimed at stirring up hatred of the enemy to be hot and sharp at all times, aimed at building the stance of constant revolutionary vigilance, building stances, ideology, politics, and organization to make socialist revolution and build socialism to be strong, defending the territory absolutely at all costs, defending the fruits of the revolution absolutely and at all costs, and joining with the people as one block of flesh and blood to go on the offensive, making rice field dike systems to achieve 3 tons per hectare and to modify the livelihood of the people following the objectives of the party. Method of operation: internal re-education in the party, the core organizations, and the army, and conducting meetings to stir up the people's hatred." End of quote. Your Honors, in reviewing this document for this presentation, I note, as was also noted by the translator in the English version, that the version of this that was copied, obtained from DCCAM and copied, has just pages 1 and 3 of a 3-page document and is missing page 2. We're prepared to make some inquiries to determine whether that was a copying error or whether this is all that exists of the document, unless the Chamber would initiate that ourselves. We are happy to determine whether this was an error or not, but I wanted to alert the Chamber to the fact that the version that is in the case file is missing the 2nd page.
President, thank you. The Chamber will instruct the senior legal officer to examine this to find out whether or not it was a technical error or it was the negligence on the part of anyone that led to the loss of a certain page in the document.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll continue on now to a new document, which is document E3/740, E3/740, which is a 11 July 1977 directive from Committee 870 regarding the use of the terms Ankar and party. And the key part of this directive reads as follows, quote, "Our party has observed that using the term Ankar to address an individual does not gain anything towards building the political stance psychological stance, and the organizational stance of the party. It is contrary to our party's socialism and revolutionary stance and our party's stance in eliminating private ownership. Therefore, the Party Central Committee would like to issue directive to every local base, ministry, office, and unit as follows. 1. The term Ankar or party is used only for the organization. It shall not be used for any individual. Number 2, for individuals, comrade, the person's name, or comrade in this or that position, or comrade representing Ankar at this or that level shall be used. For example, Comrade Teng, Comrade Secretary, Comrade representing Ankar or zone. The party organization of all levels shall direct and educate our comrades and friends on this issue to make them fully absorb and successfully implement it. The next document I will present is document E3/741. That's E3/741, which is a document entitled Instructions of 870 that was issued by Committee 870 on the 3rd of January 1978, whose described subject was, quote, view, positions, and line to victoriously attack the one enemy invader and territory swallower. This directive consists of instructions relating to the Vietnamese military conflict. The measures that are the subject of this directive are summarized at the start of Section 3, which can be found at Khmer 00284-278, English 00296-003 through 04, and French 00611-865. And that section reads as follows, quote, measures to effectively attack the one enemy invader to seize victory in the forthcoming and in the long term. In order to effectively attack the one enemy invader and territorial swallower and their strategies and maneuvers, and to achieve subsequent victory, we must have and grasp the measures of the party as follows. Conduct military attacks against the enemy. Conduct political attacks against the enemy and eliminate their espionage and psychological warfare. Always attack the enemy by cutting off their food and economy, starving them constantly. Always attack the enemy by constantly cutting the roads for transporting their food, ammunitions, and troops. End of quote. What then follows is a number of instructions on how to conduct guerrilla attacks against the Vietnamese. That section concludes as follows at Khmer 00284-281, English 00296-006, and French 00611-867. This part of the directive contains the following instruction, quote, requests that all levels of zone, sector, district, command committees, and military base cadres pay attention to and study thoroughly and effectively the attack lines prescribed above. Stir our cadres and combatants to compete in attacking and smashing the head of the one enemy invader to defend the party and the revolution, democratic Kampuchea, our people, our cooperatives, our rice, our farms, and all of our products. In the next section of this circular, which is a section discussing attacking the enemy politically, the following instructions are provided at Khmer 00284-282, English 00296-007, and French 00611-868. Quote, "To sum up in one word, it is imperative to be absolute in politics, ideology, and organization to eliminate the pacifist agents, espionage activities, and psychological warfare of the enemy. The levels of the party, zones, sectors, and the battlefield command committees, party committees, office, and ministries must raise clear measures and closely cooperate." Continuing in the next paragraph below, "It is imperative to have firm base cadres present constantly to constantly stir up national and class anger among the people toward the one enemy invader in order to turn such anger into material anger, to carry out all types of concrete activities to strengthen the cooperatives, to build the economy, to increase production." End of quote. And like some of the other circulars and directives we have seen, this document concludes with specific instructions regarding its implementation throughout the country. And I'm reading here from the very end of the document, which states as follows, quote, "Remarks, this direction shall be distributed and studied in the zone, sector, and district party committees, in the cooperative committees, in the battlefield committees, divisions, committees, regiments, battalions, companies, platoons, squads, combatants, and the command committees in each target area for them to absorb again and again, to constantly draw experience and to constantly improve implementation according to experience of right and wrong. Implement the party's military line, the line of people's war and guerrilla war, very well. The Yuan invader will definitely leave piles of their bones on our soil." And the last party circular that I would like to present is document E3/763, E3/763, which is a document that was issued by the CPK Central Committee on the 20th of June 1978, which is entitled, quote, "Guidance of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kampuchea on the party's policy towards misled persons who have joined the CIA, served as Yuan agents, or joined the KGB and opposed the Party, Revolution, People, and Democratic Kampuchea." End of quote. In this document, the Central Committee modified its policy and instructions regarding CIA, Yuan, and KGB agents, setting forth a number of groups of persons that were to be considered. In the first three groups that you will see in the document, the Central Committee modified its punishment for any persons who had joined the CIA, KGB, or Yuan before 1975, but were no longer engaging in traitorous activities. However, in the fourth group that is listed, of those who joined from 1975 to 78, the Central Committee stated as follows, and this is a quote from Khmer ERN 000798280, English 00275-218, and French ERN 00623-529, which states as follows, quote, "Any person who is recalcitrant who still continues to carry out his or her activity against the CPK, the State Revolutionary Authority, the workers, farmers, the socialist collective regime, Kampuchean people, and the DK, Such person shall be punished because he or she is carrying out traitorous activity intentionally with his or her resolute opposing stance, with his or her satisfaction stance in serving the enemies such as the CIA, ON, and KGB. This sort of people has made the clear marks of their own boundaries, thus the CPK must eliminate them. End of quote. And with respect to these persons who were still carrying out opposing activities, the party divides them into 4 types, which are set out immediately below the quote that I read. And with respect to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th types that are listed in this document, the Central Committee stated, quote, the party has a policy to re-educate and admonish them in order for them to be awakened, end of quote. It is noteworthy that type 4 that is listed is defined as follows, quote, those who have just been persuaded by the propaganda and whose names have just been recorded in the list as having been joining in the CIA. Type 1 in this breakdown, the most serious type of enemy, is defined by the Central Committee as, quote, those who carry out the resolute opposing activities as a network by committing concrete acts successively, end of quote. And once again, this document concludes with express instructions regarding the communication and implementation of this policy. The end of the document states as follows, quote, instructions for the application. It is requested to all of the regions, sectors, and the military units to take this above guidance to educate and to conduct meetings inside their respective parties, core organizations, ministries, and offices in the military units, cooperatives, factories, and work sites in order that all the masses of people will learn about this policy of the party. It is requested to diffuse and follow up the diffusions of this guidance diligently by doing and redoing it again successively in the short training courses, in the lifestyle meetings, in the assemblies, in the meetings, or during the days off. From now until the end of 1978, it is requested to each cooperative, each factory, each worksite, each unit, each place to educate and organize meetings for 5 to 6 times, end of quote. Mr. President, I will move to another document at this point. And to let you know, I have a few more documents to present. I probably will take 15 minutes to half an hour in the afternoon and then turn it over to my colleague for the second subject matter.
The President, thank you. Since it is now appropriate time for the lunch adjournment, the Chamber will adjourn until 1:30 p.m. Counsel for Mr. Nuon Chea, you may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our client Nuon Chea would like to follow this afternoon's proceedings from his holding cell, as he is suffering from a back pain, lack of concentration, and other related health issues. And I understand that we have already submitted the waiver.
The President. Thank you, Counsel. The Chamber has noted the request of Mr. Nuon Chea through his counsel, in which he has requested that he be excused from the courtroom and that he be allowed to observe the proceeding from his holding cell due to his health concern. The request is reasoned, and therefore the Chamber grants the request by allowing Mr. Nuon Chea to observe the proceedings from his holding cell for the remainder of the day Mr. Nuon Chea has already waived his right to participate directly in the courtroom. Counsel for Mr. Nuon Chea is instructed to submit the waiver signed or given thumbprint by Mr. Nuon Chea to the chamber. AV booth officers are now instructed to ensure that the AV equipment is well connected to the holding cell so that Mr. Nuon Chea can observe the proceedings from there for the remainder of the day. And security personnel are now instructed to bring Mr. Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan to their respective holding cell and have Mr. Khieu Samphan return to the courtroom at 1:30. The court is adjourned.
សូមចេញក្រោយឈរ